Hello and welcome back to the LEGO Millennium Falcon mega build. We are on page 379. Holy hell, it's like episode 25, I think. There's another version of events where I did one episode of these per year and I die before it ends, honestly. At that kind of rate, I think I would. No, that doesn't add up. I should live longer than that. I've got the genes for it. Right, let's get cracking. It's just dust or some kind of powdered moth extract. I have just realised I'm wearing the exact same top as I was wearing last time, which were I a woman would see me ostracised from all notable communities. However, I'm a man and therefore you only notice because I pointed it out. It's not because I'm a dirty boy. It's not because I have such a routine that, you know, I come to record this, I'm already wearing this because it's the same day. It's just cold, and this is the equivalent of like my pajamas. Like you get in from work, someone revs the car as loud as possible. You get in from work and you think, I need to change into comfortable attire, but it's too early for full pajamas. So you have an outfit you chuck on that's very comfortable, but you don't wash it very often. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, this is suddenly getting complicated. These first few steps, it was like, yeah, just put one piece on at a time. And then suddenly, right, now add these 12 pieces. Okay, right, that's good. I'm coming up to a period in time where I'm going to be phenomenally busy. And I feel, you know, like I'm sort of standing back and like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. I can handle this at this point. But I feel that come a couple weeks from now, I'll be a ragged, what's the word? Echo of the man I once was. And that wasn't much to begin with, was it? Suitably vague, isn't it? So I saw a good film the other day, The Big Lebowski. I know what you're thinking. It's an old film. Surely Ben would have seen that before. He's something of a film connoisseur. He's been around the block. He knows his stuff. So you wouldn't say film buff, but you might say, you know, expert in film trivia. I'll go that far. So that's true. Actually, I am. I'd never seen it before, right? And it was one of those films where the reason I'd not seen it because it wasn't out. But it came out before I was born, obviously. So I'm not going to see it at the cinema. And it was just never been on in my life. I've never, you know, turned down a chance to see it. And it's one of them where I was like, I like the Coen brothers. I haven't seen many of their films. I came to this realization the other day. So I should remedy that. And then I made absolutely no effort to do that at all. I was going to the cinema anyway that night. I was going to see House of Clock in Its Walls, which turns out is directed by Eli Roth. That's a weird move, isn't it? Horror, like extreme horror director suddenly shifts over to doing a kids' family film, which was a bold move, but apparently it's very good. So I haven't seen it yet. I'm looking forward to that. I'm seeing it tonight, actually. I was going to go and see that. I went on to book the tickets, just scrolling down. I was like, yeah, there it is. And like 10 minutes before it started, it was like, Big Lebowski 20th anniversary screening. I was like, well, I've got to see that. That's a sign. I've been wanting to see that for ages, and there's no better experience of seeing a film than at the cinema, is there? I mean, it's good watching it on your TV, but at the cinema, there's just something far better about it. So I went for that, and there's a weird unwritten rule where, I guess it's because it's an old film. There's different like rules about them showing it. So there's normally not any trailers beforehand because it's like I don't know why exactly. Really, they could easily just show you like the modern trailer reel. That wouldn't be weird. It would be really cool if they showed you the old trailer reel, like from when it released. I would honestly, I'd be more interested to see what they would have showed you before a film 20 years ago than I am about the film, almost. That's like, That's a weird sort of time bubble situation, isn't it? If you ever recorded stuff on VHS as a kid, like films, you'll have got like old adverts if the film had adverts. Seeing that now is more interesting than seeing the content. You can watch Terminator 2, that's easy. But watching the adverts they might have played around Terminator 2 on ITV, which is a channel, that's lost to time. And rightfully so. I mean, it's debatable whether all TV shows need storage. Certainly adverts, less so. But consequently, what it meant was I got to the screening on time. As in, it started at 7:30, I walked in at 7:30. Which for most screenings means there'll be no one there because there's at least 20 minutes of pre-roll. First the adverts, then the trailers, a few more adverts maybe. The cinema will advertise itself, which is weird because you're already there. And then you get the film. No, this one was just like, boom, straight in. I walked in at the exact moment they were showing the ident for the movie studio, which I think was Universal. Because I walked in and I couldn't see the screen, I could only hear it. I could hear that, I was like, okay, well I haven't missed anything, but I've got to get to my seat quick because the film is going to start right now. The moment I rounded the corner and came into the screen was when that ident finished and it just went black. So I was just in a black screen. I was like, okay, well I've memorised the layout of the room, so I'm going to have to use my memory and a certain amount of echolocation to get to my seat because there is no light whatsoever. Obviously it's not super dark, but normally you acclimatise to it first in a screening like that. I just walked from like outside light just into the dark room. It was like, boom, can't see a thing. So I walk in there and there wasn't really anyone in there. There was, I think, 2 other people. I thought, that's odd. When I booked these tickets, there were at least 12 other people in the screen. So I thought they probably assume they haven't got to be here like right on time. So they're going to be walking in late. Which is exactly what happened. Like a number of people walked in. And I also thought, it was like, odds are most of these people have already seen this film, so it doesn't really matter. But apparently the people, I assume this might be the case. Like, The Big Lebowski, it's not a comedy, I wouldn't say. Like a lot of Coen Brothers stuff, and I haven't seen much. There's humour in it. It's not really laugh out loud humour. It's more, not whimsical, darkly whimsical maybe? It's hard to describe it. Okay, I don't actually need this bit I'm holding. Very confusing. But there was 2 guys in the screen, and there was one sort of behind me and to the right. Him I didn't mind so much, and there was one directly in front of me in a group of like 5 people, and I'd already read this group of people. There were 4 men, 1 woman. They were late teens to early 20s, I would say. If you were to picture a group of 4 friends who like to play D&D together, and then one of them gets a girlfriend who is like the typical sort of nerdy girl of about 20 years ago. Like, if you were imagining this, like this setup, it would be like, she's probably a perfectly ordinary girl, but in this group she's like a superstar because they don't know the scent of a woman. That's what I read into the situation, and it was clear to me, like, I would say in that group, one of them had seen the film before, and the rest hadn't, and he'd encouraged them to come, and they'd be like, yeah, we've heard of it, it's supposed to be good, we'll come. And like, he might have bigged it up a bit too much, because in any scene that was even remotely humorous, like, he was laughing out loud, like, but like real forced laughter, and like, I didn't know the man, and I could tell it was forced laughter. Like it was hard to watch. I wouldn't say it ruined the experience. It definitely changed it. Let's see, so this goes here. And there was the guy like behind me to the right was doing much the same sort of thing, and it was odd. It was that's all I can say. It was odd. You get that every now and again in films. You get the weirdo who's like laughing at stuff that isn't like, it's not particularly funny. It's like he's aware of an inside joke. It just seems odd to me, you know. Nothing against, you know, laughing out loud in a film. I'll happily do it, should the need arise. Where is this bit I need? It's been a real prick. Alright, I had to start doing that thing where I sort of push everything into rough allocations of where it should be. The key is, I've realised when you do this, you can't pile anything up near where it starts. You have to put it somewhere else, because otherwise you might just lose what it is you're trying to bring order to. This isn't going well. So I finished up Spider-Man, the PS4 game. Oh yeah, I should probably actually talk about the film. It's a good film. I enjoyed it. Hard film to categorise. I would say it's a bit like Pulp Fiction, but less violent. It's a fun story. What was good about seeing it is it has a lot of big names in it, who are still big names now, but they're not like leads. Like, it's very rare you'll see John Goodman and he'll be the lead in a film. Set 10 Cloverfield Lane, obviously. It's very rare you'll see Jeff Bridges as the lead of a film. Well, except Hell or High Water, when he was like partially a lead. I mean, they still get a chance, but it's just less common, you know. Got it. Right. Oh, I totally forgot why I needed it. Whether I'd already built the thing it went on, or what. It's nice seeing, like, well, just John Goodman. I really like John Goodman. He's one of those actors who I really like. There's no, you know, I think most people like him. I've never met anyone who doesn't like him. I particularly liked him in Community, where he played Vice Dean Claiborne, who was insane to a certain amount. Or possibly the only sane one there. Taught he was the head of the air conditioning repair school, which is the secret powerhouse of the community college. That's a great series if you've not seen it. Okay, that's good. It's funny, last week I felt like I couldn't think of anything to talk about, and then suddenly I remembered loads of stuff to talk about, as is the tradition. But what I didn't mention was that suddenly the news came out of nowhere that Netflix, I'm pretty sure it was Netflix, are making a live action Avatar TV series. Which some people have joked, is like, oh yeah, it's this first live action Avatar. And then, you know, you all have the hilarious back and forth of like, there was no M. Night Shyamalan movie. I will say in defence of that movie, I watched it like after the fact. Had some okay stuff in it. It wasn't like, it's got some bad stuff in there. There's some very dodgy CGI in places, and some questionable moments. But it's not out and out terrible. The thing is, I have seen some truly terrible films. So when I see a film like that, it's like, yeah, if that's the worst film you've ever seen, you've lived a blessed life. Clearly, you've not seen. You know how there are like indie films that do well at the Oscars, and like it's like, oh yeah, they made this film for like £3 and it grossed $20 billion. Amazing. And then there are others where it's like, yeah, they made this film for £12 and somehow most of that went to catering. I've seen films like that, you know. Films with no redeeming qualities. What the fuck is this thing I want? I've kind of forgotten what I'm looking for. Right, it's one of these. This hasn't helped. I'm going to put them all on and then worry about it in a few seconds. Yeah, buy me precious time. Yeah, so a live action Avatar film, I thought. TV series, in fact. which sounded good, and then people rightfully pointed out, it's like, why? Because it's based on the TV series, the cartoon, which I'm a fan of, clearly. I don't know why I said clearly. There's no basis for that, is there? But that story's been done, and it's been done really well in cartoon format. I'd happily watch any other story, but that's like one we already know. And it's fine if they adapt it, but the thing is, it was already great to begin with. Lord of the Rings, the book, is a good book. Do it straight to film, issues can arise, but it's already basically in the same medium, going from a TV series to a TV series. Granted, it's going from cartoon to live action, but normally the other way is the way you'd go. You'd start with the live action, you'd be like, we could do a lot more in cartoon format. And you go that way. Can't really think of any examples, because just seems an odd idea. And then you've got finding voice actors to fill those roles, fairly easy. I think they used adults for some of it and kids for other parts, fine. Finding child actors for a TV series that, if it's 1-for-1, will be 3 seasons. Finding an actor who starts out at the sort of 12 age range and can end up as a teenager without inexplicably growing 12 feet in between, which they always do. I can't see as it's going to work. And also, most child actors are unbearable. You get a few here and there who are good and you can bear them, but most of the time, unbearable. Particularly whoever they get for soccer, who's got to be not charming, but he's got to be funny and sarcastic. But you've got, I don't know if it'll work. Quiet optimism, I suppose, is the only sort of tact you can take with it. And then this weird thing where it came out with the Witcher TV series that for Siri they were specifically looking for. There's an industry term for it, but I don't know what it is. It's non-white is essentially what they look for. Damn it! There's a weird acronym for it. I can't remember what it was. And so they were looking for that, and it's like, okay, well, fair play. They're basing their series off the books, and there's only a certain amount of characterization in the books. Although a lot of characters are, if you've got weird skin in that world, people will mention it. And then obviously, while it is technically based on the books, it's based on the games, isn't it? No one's making a Witcher TV series unless the games existed. In the same way that no one's making a Lord of the Rings video. Shadow of War wasn't getting made without Lord of the Rings being a massive hit film series. Take out the film series, and the books are good. No one's got the imagination to make an epic anything, really, from them. Ralph Bakshi be damned. See, I've said that name, and I'm pretty sure he was the one that made the kind of slightly failed Lord of the Rings cartoon movie, whatever it was. I've not seen it, but now I'm not so certain. Okay, I've got to make a thing now. So I will probably watch said series, and then someone else gave a very glib analysis of the thing you got to remember that is true is that Avatar was great and all, but it was kind of a lightning in a bottle situation that even existed in the first place. And then they went on to point out a lot of well thought out points. It's even the guys that made it, they've gone on to do other stuff, and it's been okay, but not as good. So it's not like they're the winning factor in there. And it's we've had Korra as a sequel series, which is good, but it's not as good, is it? It's enjoyable, but it's just not as good. That's the thing. You can't argue that. There's no one in the world who's saying, "Oh yeah, Korra's better." There's people who say, "Yeah, it's definitely worth watching." So there's that. There's the comic books, which are set post-Avatar but pre-Korra. Feature all the gang. Written, I think, by the same writers. I can never remember their names. One of them is Brian. That's his DiMartino, something like that. And then the other one's even more complicated for me. Right, what have I got here? I've made a thing. Now I've got to combine these into another, even weirder thing. Wait. Oh, no, these go on the bottom of this. Okay, I've made just a little kind of slug pellet. So yeah, all signs point to the fact that like the first Avatar TV series was just a fluke how good it was. And you know, keep it, fine, it's brilliant, but don't like expect a future where there'll be better ones. In the same way that Zack Snyder's first big film, 300, was great, everyone loved it, and assumed, you know, he could keep going on and doing better. And post that, it was like, some of these are good, but not so much. Like Watchmen, I really liked it, but you know, a lot of people didn't. It's not really as good. And then, what else has he made? Batman v Superman. What? Just what in general? And then the whole thing with everything else of his career. Is this on right? Have I got this in the right place? I think I have, yeah. Cut to like, you know, the Always Sunny opening. Ben gets it wrong. No, that's terrible. It's not even remotely good, was it? Right, so this now goes onto here, like so. Okay, that's good. Another good example of what I just said would be the director who did Neil Blomkamp, that's his name. He did District 9. Everyone loved District 9. Thought, yeah, it was good. It's great sci-fi. It's got its own unique style. It's got weird violence and sort of a uniqueness to it. And yeah, it's a good film in general. I kind of liked it. Thought it was okay. Didn't think it was brilliant. Thought it left on a cliffhanger that I was like, we're going to get a sequel, or is this it now? How does this fit on here? Like this. Okay, yep, that fits nicely, and it proves I got that first bit in the correct order. And now I have to make a separate wing for this bit. Does this go here maybe? Kind of. I've got no real idea. It's like I'm making it a small Falcon, actually. Is this why it's called the Falcon? No, that'd be ridiculous. Yeah, he made District 9. Great film. People loved it. Generally, I would say universal acclaim. Then he made the what was it, Elysium, which I watched, and like as a film, it's like, wow, this has got a really heavy-handed message in here, and it's confusing as to what it is, and it just generally like wasn't a great film. There were bits of it was like, okay, if you go in this direction, you're gonna have a good film. Let's veer over here to something else. This is backwards. I needed this bit. There we are. Yes, these are different bits. I felt like I'd taken that off, put this one on, and created the exact same thing, but I didn't. Yeah, so Elysium wasn't great. And then post that, you get Chappie, which I've not seen. And, you know, I saw the adverts and I thought, that looks terrible. It looks like 100 films that came out in the 80s. And it's got Diane Wood in it, who I know as a pair of rappers, a duo of rappers, a musical act of some sort, who my first introduction to them was I used to listen to the radio a lot. And they'd have this thing where they'd have like a record of the week, and it would be picked out by like either a panel of experts or a DJ who was like basically really had their finger on the pulse, knew what was what, and was like, if they said like this group you've never heard of, this is a good record and they're going to be big, 9 times out of 10 they'd be right. And they picked this one song from Diane Wood, and it was terrible. I heard it, I was like, that song was terrible, and everyone who played it, like all the DJs, like, yeah, that was different, wasn't it? And later on, someone said, yeah, we weren't sure if the reason the DJ picked this because they were going on holiday that week, and it was a big joke where they were like, oh yeah, take this will be huge. And it's like they knew it was terrible, but they weren't going to be there, and it was a kind of an Emperor's New Clothes situation where it's like I'm gonna test my influence here, see if people will actually flag me up on this awful song, or will people just think, well, he says it's good, so I must like it. And the debate actually still rages, because then I heard like that DJ's retort to it, and he's like, nah, it's a great song, I love it, and didn't play it very much after that. So I'm not sure exactly the response to that. But that event happened. I filed that away in my mind because I found it very funny and I hated the song. And then like years later, it's like, oh yeah, they're in this as a major factor. I was like, what? Those people are awful. And then like reviews came out. It's like, yes, they're the worst part of a bad movie and they're in it way too much. They should have had a cameo, inexplicably the main characters, or some nonsense. So there's that. Even the name of it is just appalling, isn't it? Chappie as a name. It sounds like the sort of film name they'd make up when they were intentionally like they had. If you're making a film about an actor whose career flopped because they made a film, that's like the film you'd make up. There was an Adam Sandler film, I want to say it was Funny People or something like that, where he had cancer and he was essentially playing a version of himself that was a comedian turned actor who made a load of trash films that made loads of money. But even like in that, he knew they were crap. It's just like, well, it's a paycheck, isn't it? Which is fair enough. It sounds like the sort of film you'd make up for that, and then later go on to make, because it's like, well, actually that tested quite well, even as a made-up trash film. We might as well make it. Nothing to lose. Parody is dead. And this goes here. Perfect. I kind of just, I looked at that once, put everything in place and got them all correct, which means everything's probably off by one and will haunt me later on. Actually nearing the end of this bag now, aren't we? That's handy. I'm now trying to, M. Night Shyamalan was kind of a director that also did sort of almost peak too early, but I think he peaked initially, then his other films were sort of over the place. Then he went down a lot. Like there was Sixth Sense, which everyone loved. There was Signs, which most people loved, but not quite as much. It's like if Sixth Sense was a 92, Signs was a 90, and you look at that, you think, well, it's basically the same. It's a little bit different, but similar, score-wise and opinion-wise. And then there was Unbreakable, which was like, I think did poorly at the time, but in retrospect, everyone liked. It was a film I remember seeing adverts for and was like, what the hell is that? What was that even about? I remember the advert being like, oh yeah, there's a train crash, everyone died, except you. And I was thinking, what's the film even about? Is it just about luck? Is it a drama about him coming to terms with that? Does he have a guardian angel? And then I didn't see it because it failed to catch my attention enough. And then years later I was like, what the hell was that film even about? And I looked it up, I was like, oh, he was a superhero? Oh, that sounds cool, I'll watch that. I did watch it and it was okay. It had some cool stuff in it. It was just a bit mopey, to be honest. And it was like watching a superhero origin story. Most origin stories are like, normal guy, something happens, learn to use your powers, villain appears, fight the villain, become the hero. Like they'll be the hero for like at least the back third of the film, like properly, and they'll sort of aspire to it for 2/3 of the film. Whereas Unbreakable is like, the thing happens, he kind of works out he's got powers. A lot of the film happens, fights a guy, then it just kind of fizzles. There's a certain amount of fizzle. And now it's coming back because they're making that Glass film, which is a sequel to the one where New Xavier is all the different people. I forget what it was called. what was that film called? Split, that was it. Which I didn't see. Couldn't be bothered, didn't look like my sort of film. Looked too scary for me. Yeah, but then he had a load of trash in the middle, didn't he? He had like The Village, which at the time people were like, yeah, it's still good, and you're like, in retrospect, it's like, oh, actually, it's just him doing his big twist thing, and then he just kept doing that, didn't he? That was The Happening, where I'm told the big twist is that the trees were killing them, like the trees and the wind would kill people. And I'm sure Mark Wahlberg was like a train conductor or something in that. There's an odd career, Mark Wahlberg, isn't it? I feel like if he'd have made better choices, he could be as big as like Vin Diesel right now. But he didn't, and he's more akin to a modern day, not Steven Seagal, because he's better than that, but I want to say like, what's his name? Time Cop. Outbreak. JCVD. A little bit like that. Where, you know, like, you go back, you're naming like the big action stars of the 80s. You go, oh yeah, you got Schwarzenegger. He was top of his game. And then you had Sly Stallone. And then you had Bruce Willis. Oh yeah, great, you know, real big stars at the time. And then it's like, and then you also had these guys. Not bad by any means, but he'd get in the list, you know. He could be in the Expendables if he wanted. Okay, I picked this up and I didn't actually put it on anywhere, so I should go back and, yep, that's clear. That could have caused issues. And what worries me is that I kind of did that before, so I'm wondering if I had left the same sort of piece off of this one. If it is a mirror, I will be able to tell. Huh. Don't know. I'll look into that at the end, I'm sure. Yeah, so live action Avatar. That's going to be good. What I'm actually more interested about is there's a comic book series coming out based on Avatar Kyoshi, which far more intrigues me as a story. I want to know about why she decided that the best move when there was someone trying to conquer the whole of the Earth Kingdom for the first time, instead of stopping him, she just cut off a peninsula. It's like, you do you. It's my town. Piss off. Apparently she lived to 200 odd years old as well. Possibly the oldest Avatar, not oldest living, but longest lived. She old. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, that was the thing. That's what I was on about. So in The Witcher, they specifically said, for Ciri, we want non-white actress to play her, which is fine. I think the books were only very specific about her having ashen hair and not being a white chick, despite the fact that she's from, you know, an area of Poland. It's Poland's biggest export as an entertainment medium, I think. So they're very specific about that, and a lot of people, most people in fact, were like, all right, that's odd. Fair enough. Why though? Because it seems more like, you know, get the right actress for the role. Don't suddenly limit it to a certain amount. I'm not a casting director. I don't know how these things work. I'm not anything. I don't know how anything works really. But then for Avatar, they were like, it was, well, they were. I can't even remember what the slight, like, what's it called, the slight drama around it was. They specifically want all, I think it's that they for Avatar they were like, we want specifically non-white actors for the main roles, or possibly all the roles, but they can be from anywhere else. So it's just like, okay, so you got the fact that in the show, it was never outright stated, but it was it was kind of clear they were based on like China, Japan, what do you call it, like Inuit culture. I don't know the right words these days. Eskimos they used to be. I'm told no one gives a shit about being called that. Not sure who I'm told it by though. I've never met one. And people are like, so hang on, you've gathered the fact that they can be they can be everywhere. They just can't be white. So it doesn't actually make sense. But I don't know. Hopefully it will be good. Hopefully they cast it right. Maybe age up some of the characters. That would be fine. Maybe hire people that can do martial arts, ideally. After the whole Iron Fist debacle, where you've got a character who is like the world's greatest martial artist, been training since a boy with, mystic monks who know nothing other than kung fu, essentially. And they hired, God bless you, Finn Jones, they hired a man who apparently has never had any combat training. I think the span of it was the fact that in Game of Thrones, he played a knight who, technically speaking, was one of the best swordsmen around. Like he won some tournaments. He was a fine jouster. There's somehow I can parlay this into a gay joke, but I can't be bothered to do the work. So imagine that I did the work. Ha ha ha! We're all laughing. And then it's like, yeah, he can play Iron Fist. That's fine. And apparently that he had 2 weeks of training, and then before every fight scene, it was like, you got 30 minutes to learn some choreography here. That was a problematic series. What the fuck do I need? Oh, I need these 3 little pipes, and one of these. So this goes in like this. I kind of liked the Iron Fist show, only because watching it I was like, so you really like as a the whole Netflix Marvel thing, they really put 90% of their effort into Daredevil. Sorry, no, they put about, let's say, 70% of their effort into Daredevil. Then that did well. It was like, yeah, that's fine. Put a lot of work into Jessica Jones. Yeah, it was a good series, the first one. It wasn't that good, actually. What was good about it was that they happened to get a good villain that they could do really well on TV and didn't require too much work. And then they got David Tennant to play him, and he was just really good at it. Because he was a good villain. It's like, he's not trying to take over the world. He just happens to have a gift that really can't not make him evil. Jessica Jones, okay, yeah, no, it's not great. I've watched it again, and there's a lot of it in there. Like they seem to make the error of when they make these shows. You call a show Daredevil. I want it to be mostly about Daredevil. Call a show Luke Cage. I want it to be mostly about Luke Cage. Call the show Jessica Jones. I don't really care about her friend Patsy, or anyone else, to be honest. Her drug addict neighbour, don't really care about him. If I'm watching a show named after the title character, that's all I want to see. Right, now I need this. And this. And her powers were like all over the place. She's super strong, but she's not like invulnerable. But like if she punched, like she could punch through a wall and wouldn't break her hand. So therefore, like, if she got hit by something hard enough to punch through a wall, that shouldn't really hurt her because she's already taken that hit, if you know what I mean. It's the whole thing of if you get super strength, you need to have a certain amount of invulnerability or like endurance to go along with it. Otherwise, you can't use it, you know. Like Superman, like if he's flying, he could fly straight through the side of a building, right, and be fine. But if you chuck a car at him, somehow he doesn't just stand there and be unfazed by it. He would, you know, he'd he'd be damaged by that in some iterations. That's the confusion there. Made the error again of building this essentially blind. I think I've got it correct though. Daredevil, great. Jessica Jones, yeah, it was okay. Daredevil season 2, I really liked it. Some people didn't. It was very much, you know, a story of 2 arcs. It was like, here's the Punisher. That's great. Everyone loves the Punisher. He's a great character to have on TV. And when you've got the ability to actually have him just flat out killing people as well, that's a huge factor. You can't, unless you've got like a solid R rating or an indescribable internet rating, you can't have the Punisher in something. That's why he can't really appear in the MCU. It's like, well, you can have him kill a few people, but not really. And the Elektra stuff, it was fine. It was fine. Luke Cage was... I like Luke Cage as a character. The guy is cool. He was... I thought they brought him in well in Jessica Jones, where I was like, yeah, he don't really give a shit. He's just there. He's trying to live his life. Then in Luke Cage's show, yeah, it was pretty good. And then inexplicably, they kill off someone who was building like Diamondback. That wasn't his name. Cottonmouth was his name. They kill him off. They'd kind of set him up as a pretty cool villain, and like, you know, sort of a minor gangster sort of character. But then he died. And it's like, well, yeah. Trouble was, he had sort of the charisma, and I liked seeing him. And then they replaced him with someone I didn't like. So I've made this. This is the Millennium, and this is the Falcon, apparently. It does very much look like not a bird so much, but a future drone bird, doesn't it? And it does flap, so it's got that going for it. It has a certain amount of symmetry to make me think I've got it all correct. Let me just check. I'm onto a new bag after this, and I'm wondering, I should just have a quick once over to make sure I've got everything roughly in place, shouldn't I? I'm only really worried about the stuff on top. It's only really this bit that worries me, 'cause it's the only one that's particularly decorative. Not, it's big, it's what it is. It could be something. Probably isn't, but it could be. I'm not seeing any red flags appearing. Could be on the underside, but I'm not too worried about that, because you won't see it. Yeah, okay, so that's fine. Yeah, that's all fine. And then what's the other underside? This side? Yep. Yep, I think it's all good. Right. So where am I adding this? I'm still not entirely sure. It does go at the front, okay, and it goes this way. Yep. And it seems to... It's not got any pins, so it's just going to push down on what? Here. Apparently. Okay. Right. So it is on there, and it's on a kind of a pivoting thing, so it can move. I say that, and now it doesn't move. So that. Okay. So that, right. That seems to be how that goes. Yep. All right, that's good. I'll put this here. I've not even considered why I want that there. Oh, some yellow in this. What a joy. In the right bag number. presumably. Little dinky ones. So, according to the box, in this bag, I will be making I'm not entirely certain. I think I'm making a covering for this section here, which would be the breast or shoulder blade. If this is the buttock, this is the shoulder blade. Or maybe they're twisting in an impossible fashion. Right. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so I finished Spider-Man on PS4. It was a good game. I was making sure I finished it because I've got a bad habit with open world games of that nature. Of like, I get to a point in the story where I think probably everything after this story mission wise is basically the run up to the end game. And sometimes games like that are good, and they say, okay, beyond this point, like you won't be able to go back. So do what you want to do, and that's it. And I was like, I need to make sure I actually finish this game. I don't want to leave a hanging chad, to use a term incorrectly. And I did that, and it was one of those, I was like, I want to make sure I've done everything as well beforehand, because probably when I complete the main story, I'll be less enthused to keep playing. And I will say, story, it was a good one. It was fun. They tied it all back together. They do a good job of like making it all seem normal, and like normal enough to start with, and it's going to be like, oh yeah, you're fighting Mr. Negative. He's like the new crime boss in town, and then like kind of 2/3 of the way through, I feel like story wise, it's like suddenly Doc Ock appears, which isn't a spoiler because at the start of the game, your job is in a lab with Otto Octavius, making prosthetic arms, and like as soon as you see him, it's like, well, he's Doc Ock. I know he's Doc Ock. He will be Doc Ock. He probably isn't now, but at some point in this game, we're gonna see it. Because you gotta have one villain origin, haven't you? And so yeah, you know it's gonna happen. It's a case of when, and they do it really well. And so, like, then suddenly he unleashes a load of supervillains, and it's like, okay, this is a good way to like get a load of supervillains into this fight in like a not too contrived way. Like, you can't just have them being not in prison, but then having to have all like their origin stories. And because you're an older Spider-Man in it as well, they can't be like, oh yeah, this is the first time on the scene for all of these supervillains, because you think, so he's been Spider-Man for 20 years, and he's been fighting the Kingpin and no one else. The Shocker a few times. Right. The Shocker, apparently he's always been a bit of a joke in comic books. And I first knew of him from the Spider-Man animated cartoon series of the 90s, which was a great series. And in that, I never really felt that he was a joke. I just thought, I actually quite liked him as a villain, because he was one of the few villains in that where like his whole thing was he had a suit. They never explained where he got it. It's kind of implied that he may have built it himself, because he seems to know how it works, at the very least. And he just likes robbing stuff, and sometimes he works for people. But like a lot of the villains in that, they were either part of some horrific accident, and it's not really their fault. Like, it's not their fault they're evil, but it is their fault that they keep trying to kill Spider-Man, or like they've been made that way, or they've given themselves these powers to do nefarious deeds, or they're insane. But the Shocker is just like, yeah, this is just a suit. I take it on and off. You don't even know what I look like without the suit, and I just rob banks and stuff. That's it. Live my life. Deal with it. I don't sometimes turn into a giant lizard. I don't suck the youth out of people. I'm not insane. This is me. I'm not a big rhino who can't take the rhino suit off. If I want to be normal, I can. Yeah, so overall, just great game in general. Not like not amazing, is what I'll say. It very much felt like a sequel to Spider-Man 2, that, like, when Spider-Man 2, the video game, came out, every Spider-Man game after that, despite being essentially based on films, should have just taken that template and been, yeah, this, a little bit more. Which a lot of them tried to do, but they never quite got the swinging mechanics and, like, the general sort of freedom of it correct. This is the first one that has. I feel like it shouldn't have been that difficult to do, but I'm not a game developer, I don't know anything. I should just have that as scrolling text at the bottom. He's not an expert, he doesn't know anything. I need some very odd looking pieces. They're not normal. They look odd. It's the best way I can describe them. They ain't right. Yep. And my biggest annoyance, actually, it comes back to the thing I was saying about Jessica Jones, where, like, the worst bits of the Spider-Man game, every single bit where you're not Spider-Man, and I'll whittle that down a bit, actually. Anytime you're not Spider-Man and also not Peter Parker, I didn't mind being Peter Parker outside of the suit, because, like, well, you know you've still got the abilities, and you're still very much him, and it makes sense as being him. But anytime you weren't like Spider-Man, I was playing it, I was like, all right, let's get through these. And the thing is, they'd always come, like, without any real warning. So, like, the way it happened for me would always be, like, I'd start playing for the day, and, like, the day before I might have ended, and I hadn't done a main mission for, like, an hour or two. I'd just been doing, like, loads of side stuff, and it'd be like, yeah, I just fancy doing, you know, these little pottering about bits, so I'll get to the main mission next time I play. And then the next time I play, I'd do a mission, and I'd be not Spider-Man. I'm sat there like, I don't want this. I want to be Spider-Man. Surprisingly, that's why I'm playing a game called Spider-Man. That's my main goal. Believe it or not, true believer. All right, this is very complicated. It's made me make 4 of these, and I've got to put them in very specific places and in specific orientations. It's enough to drive a man insane. I mean, I've over-egged the difficulty of this. It's very much just copying a picture, but it's still easy to make some errors there. And it is for that reason I feel that Spider-Man as a game will be one that universally enjoyed come, like, time for awards or recognition at the end of the year. Whatever time of year that is, I'm not certain. I want to say it's something like March or April. I don't know what contends for game of the year. But I feel everyone will forget it, to be honest, which is a shame, because I know it's a really good game. I really want to play a sequel. I'd love to see a sequel. They've clearly saved enough material, or they might just do DLC with it. I don't know. But it's. I suspect people will forget it. That's not a detractor. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm saying if you haven't played it, play it. You'll love it. 10, 20 hours later, you'll probably reach a similar opinion to me. Or maybe not. Who knows? It's a good game though. If you can receive a free copy and a free PS4 to play it on, as I did, definitely worth it. I'm glad I didn't buy a PS4 for it though. It wouldn't have been that good. However, I am going to go and start playing the new God of War next, which I'm quite looking forward to. It's quite funny. I was listening to the Dirk Gently radio series, obviously. If you're not familiar, you should be. It's a great series. But the second series of that is heavily focused around, like, Norse mythology, and I was already planning to play the God of War shortly. I was like, this is like the ideal primer, because it's like giving you a little taste, refamiliarizing yourself. It's like, oh yeah, you got Odin, the All-Father, stuff about him, the fates, all this sort of nonsense. Just a little taste, just to get you in the mood for some good old reckless killing. I'm also playing No Man's Sky again. I actually finally got to the centre of the universe. It's quite funny. I was doing this quest, and someone says, like, so there's the Atlas, which is like this weird godlike thing you interact with quite often. And I basically got told, like, yeah, if you ever want to turn it off, just say 16 to it. And I was conversing with it, and it was like, it gave me the option to say 16. I was like, well, this will turn it off, which is the equivalent of like killing the whole universe. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's give it a go. So I said it, and like through the conversation, you say it, and it kind of goes a bit funny, and then you've got the option to keep saying it. And if you keep saying it enough, it's like, okay, self-destruct initiated in 16, and like the inner narrator is like, well, the world's going to end in 16. 16 what? I don't know. It could be 16 minutes. It could be 16 hours. It could be 16 years. It turns out it's like you do 16 jumps, and then after that you're given portal locations, coordinates, and if you take a portal, it will send you to the end of the universe. And then he gives you the choice. He's like, okay, you said 16, but did you really mean it? Here's your choice. Do you want to end the galaxy and spawn a new one? I was like, yeah, fuck it. What can happen? And I've done that now. I ended time and space as we know it. Started a new one. Woke up on an alien planet with all of my suit's equipment destroyed. Fortunately, I had enough stuff on me to repair my mining laser and my life support systems. So and then I went and found my ship after repairing my scanner to find the damn thing. And that's now trash. And it's essentially how you start the game to begin with, but you start afresh. So now I've got that wonder to find out what's there. It's quite funny actually, because I was on this like fresh planet with no equipment whatsoever, but I could call in I couldn't call my ship because it was damaged, but I have like a freighter, like a really big ship essentially, and I could call that in from the planet, but I could just call it in the sky, so I could see it up there. I was like, well, it's there, my freighter with like 20 frigates surrounding it. Can't get to it though because I ain't got a ship. I was hoping I could kind of cheat the system as well, and because I've got like a spare ship on my freighter, which I was like, can I call that one and leave my broken one here? Which I wouldn't in the long run want to do, because the broken ship is a good ship. It's my main ship. I think it's called the Zenlar or something like that. I never know why I name things in games. There's normally some sort of in-joke to it that I often entirely forget. So I've got that to go back to at some point as well. It's a good palate cleanse playing No Man's Sky sort of in between the bigger games. Particularly if like, for me, I finished Spider-Man. I was like, I'm going to play God of War next. I know this. But I don't want to start it now because I'll only be able to play it for like an hour. I want the first time I play it to have a good 4 hours to it. Which I might go and do now, depending on what time it looks like when I finish this. I've made this. It's like a crappy badge. Okay. I am a little bit worried in No Man's Sky. I have a quite good farm set up that takes very little tending, and it makes me a lot of money when I go there. It's in my home base. It's an annoying situation because I like the farm and I like the resources it produces. The base itself is designed and laid out in such a horrible, nonsensical, non-aesthetic fashion. Like, it looks like total arse. It's in a really shitty location. So part of me wants an excuse to rebuild that properly, but also part of me doesn't, because when I built it, the requirements for building stuff were much different, so it was a lot easier to build at the time, and it's now become... It might not be more difficult, but it probably is more difficult. So, I want to rebuild and have a new base, but at the same time, it's like, my old base is still perfectly fine. I'm in a difficult situation there where I'm hoping my act of rebooting the entire universe out of the Matrix will kind of get me out of it. Some would say it's an extreme home makeover move. Most people would say that it's an excessive move. They'd say, Ben, why didn't you just delete some stuff, or like just build a new base over here that's really nice to look at and functional, but just keep all your old shit over here? Yeah, that might have been an option. Probably should have done that, really, instead of dooming all of everyone ever. Oh, that's the timer. Well, I'll finish building what I'm building here because I've got all the pieces out, and that's the most annoying bit. Once you've got all the pieces in order, putting it together is the fun bit. And if that's not fun, you shouldn't be playing with Lego. That's kind of the whole point. So I've got these now. Not this, like this. Okay. All right. I don't actually know what I'm entirely making. Oh, no, I do know. I'm making like a weird little round thing. That doesn't help, does it? I don't know what I'm making. Oh, no, I do know. I'm making a weird little round thing. Yep, that solves it. That solves any confusion that there might have been. And we have got what, in a pinch, with a little bit of imagination, is what the Power Rangers would hold up to morph, isn't it? It's the right sort of size, I feel. And I'm talking like Mighty Morphin era, where it was like a belt buckle, where they'd go like that and they'd morph, and you would watch that clip at least once per episode, if not twice, and you wouldn't realise until you're an adult, oh, they do that because they only ever filmed it once, and it just saves them loads of money by repeating that. And it's how all of anime exists. Repeat animations. Well, actually, I've got to build this next step as well, because this is one of my favourite things to do. You take these 4 corner pieces and you make a circle on something. And suddenly it adds so much order to it. There we go. Now it's clearly a little round thing, isn't it? That's better. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time for more of this. We're getting there, aren't we? I'm pretty sure I'll finish this before part 30, which will be great. Then I'll have to think of something else. I'll have to think of somewhere to put this as well, because it's too big to go on the windowsill. I could suspend it, but I feel like if I did that, it would work for a while, but eventually it would like pull itself apart like something out of Saw. I could fill it with expanding glue, but that's the worst idea ever. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.